Hmm.
Stop licking your fingers, mate.
It's gorgeous, this stuff. It's Can't
you mute your picture?
I go all this effort and then no fuckers turned up. Hello, Margaret.
Hang on, I could be down there in about 45 minutes, mate.
Hurry up, it's still cooking.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like where you are, but it's baking here.
Yeah.
I'm on the top floor. It's I've got all the windows open, but I now got the sun right in my face. So it's like
baseball cap.
It's like, say again.
I was going to say baseball cap. That's not going to help, is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I want to get some sunnies, but I'm trying to look at the screen at the same time. So I've joined the call twice, but I don't know if you can see both. They're not both on there, are they?
Not that I can tell, but I'm not sure. I'm not the expert to judge.
Yeah. Well, let me try joining that again.
Yes, thanks, Chris.
Let's just go with the one. I was going to try and do something with the iPad as well, but I think it's going to be too much faff.
Yeah.
So I don't want to overlap too much with what Carl did this morning. There's a number of different options really for what to cover today, but I'll quickly show the layout and some of the stuff I've done in the past, and then it was really my intention to look at the PGA project and kind of walk through my thinking on that and how that's kind of evolved a bit and the different techniques used. So it's not just about 3D printing, but also about sort of etching as well as using the silhouette cameo cutter. And I suppose pros and cons of those different approaches.
Roger's love of India never left him, and after attending boarding school,
talking about India?
he went back for a further
Something about
7 years.
checking as well.
He cut his teeth.
Oh, Mr. Porter.
That's better.
Always got to be the centre of attention. Oh, hello, double-headed 56s again.
Where's the other one?
Right behind it.
Oh yeah.
You overlapped a picture on a picture, so you got a bigger
did,
picture
yeah.
behind the front one, or it's the same picture or something.
Yeah, it's a different picture. There we go. So I guess just trying to show the variety of different versions of the PGA that there are. I mean, as people who know about the prototype know, that there's so many different versions of this wagon. So you start off with your research, I suppose, and you can see the different variety behind that there. So I guess move that out of the way. There we go. So I guess like everybody else, everyone's got their own sort of photo archives of stuff, but here's my photo archive for the PGAs, and I've organised them by build code and by number. So kind of got PGA 6A here, Frosty Yeoman, stack of different photos of those, and you recognise where I got some of those from, right? And we're going to look at the 13, the ARC ones. Yeah, loads of different ones. And this one is the 3, which is a little bit like the 6. So that's a bit like the Lima one, basically. It's pretty much the Lima one. Then you've got the 4. Again, well, no, different. So different type of sole bar on that, and different body shape, rib pattern.
Gloucester rather than the SC as well.
Two batches, I think, of the 4 there. They must be slightly different, which is why I've got them in there. I don't know if that's what's different about that. Pass. And then 13D, different shape again. So that's the one with a sort of raised top to it, and the E and the C are pretty similar, to be honest. So 13C is that one. So again, pretty similar. Not quite as high body profile. 13D. So which one are we doing today? It's the D. Get confused myself between these. So I've used I've got in here I've got Collins drawings which I've used. So for the 13D, it's that one. So I think you can find most of the PJ drawings that Collins done are on the DMU wiki. They've also been published in Update. So I started off, I thought if I did this one, I could very easily do the C and the E, which are very similar. But to try and tie this all together, I put together this great big sort of spreadsheet of information. I'm going to show you now. So, and this is just the Mendit wagons, right? But the design code, the years built, the builder, the batch numbers, the quantity that were built, the suspension units, be it so BSC or Gloucester, the deliveries carried. So sometimes they started in one and went on to another one. And then all of the different detail differences on the body, of which there are bloody loads, right? So, you know, the different type of top rails, body styles, owner boards, ribs, and so on. I'm not really going to go through this in detail, but just to kind of show how much variety there is in these things. So the D, which is what we're going to do today, is there, and it looks pretty similar to that's the D. I'm going to get up a few side by side so you can just see the genesis of them. The D, the E, was it, or the D? C up. So, you know, there's I think there's another one I'm trying to find here out of this list. Is it the B? There we go. Yeah. So you've got 3 different kind of, the top body's different on all of those. With it, well, those 2 are common on the right, the Omen ones, but the amount of that sloped area just increases. So the D seems to have the most, and then it's at the B a bit less, and then the A and C, but not very much. Like if you look at the side ribs here, there's like differences, like the plated panels there on the side. So it's very similar to that one, but slightly different. Look at the end platforms as they come down and they're angled here. They're just straight on that one. Here they're angled again. So, you know, a lot of the features that are on one, there's like only 1 or 2 different patterns of end, but then the different build codes seem to sort of make use of those different patterns in different permutations, I suppose.
I'm wondering if those the extra angle panels at the bottom on the buffer beam on the other ones are a later addition after
This
save
one?
flying debris, a bit like SSA's had the bits put on the side.
Or maybe they found that they needed to modify the design for some reason, and the later batches got an angle bit like that. I don't know.
Yeah, straight out to the end of the buffer beam.
Overcome some shortcoming of them. I don't know.
Well, I suspect that somebody got a stone whack thrown in their eye or something at speed if it was a collection point.
Look at the look at the railings as well. So this one you've got a very simple U shape with a middle bit. So all these two on the right are the same, and then this one here, the D, it's different again because you've got this crossbar.
Is that because it's higher?
It could well be, yeah. Could well be.
Because
That
once
would
it
make
goes
sense,
over a certain height, you'll probably
Yeah.
find health
Yeah.
and safety kicks in again, and you have to change the thing on it.
So you've got different suspension units even on this one. Look, Gloucester on this one, but then the ESC one on here.
Yeah.
And then ESC again on this one. So they're like all permutations of the PG-13 here. So the intention was to really have a go at the whole PG-13 family, but starting off with this D, because it seemed like the most sensible one to start with. Oh yeah, the ladders are different and stuff. You got an angle on that one, not that straight. you get the picture. So I started off by thinking, oh, well, I'm going to do it as an etched brass kit, and I started the CAD probably about 5 years ago to try and do it as an etched brass kit. So what I did, the process was, I took Colin's drawings, I took them into Blender. And I don't know if I've still got the drawings on the back here, but a little bit like Carl was doing this morning, basically overlay the wagon on the drawing and then draw all the bits, right? That's the process. It's nothing, not really rocket science. So what I did, I used this then to find the sort of the key dimensions. So if I take apart like that side panel, I could, somewhere in here, I can, edge length. I can then work out what all of the, the CAD will tell me what all of the lengths are. So, 79.5 mil, 77.5 mil, 7.5 mil. So that was then pretty easy to take that across into a 2D drawing package, for which I was using Inkscape, and transfer that, right, and draw them out. Now, without going into the intricacies of how to design for etching, there's some things that you need to be aware of about the way that the acid sort of cuts through. So you need to, depending on how you want to fold, you need to leave a bigger or smaller kind of gap between parts.
NTZN second to 6.
Was that a question?
I think that sounded like Mr. Porter's doing his sums or something.
I don't know. So I started drawing this.
I want to go on mute.
I started drawing all of this artwork up with the intention of producing an etched brass kit. And then I'll stop sharing now. If you just look at my screen a minute, I then decided I would actually try and make an etched brass kit and see how hard it was to put together. So I got one of these, which is the Intercity Models JHA, which I think Dapple are now doing. But I bought a stack of these off Cy, who I think is on the call, at Showcase a couple of years back.
Brave man.
And having a go at that and trying to put that together convinced me that I was going to waste years of my life, trying to solder, 50 PJs together to a sort of level of quality that I wanted. So I pretty much abandoned the idea then of doing that as an etch, and I thought, great, okay, well, what I'll do then is I'll 3D print it. I've just got one of these magic new 3D printers. I'll give that a go. And share my screen again. So I had my 3D artwork, but of course it was all dimensioned for using a quarter of a mil brass, right? And as you can imagine, 1/4 mil brass isn't. It's just not. It's just not thick enough wall thickness to. I'm in the wrong mode here. Let me try and get orthogonal view. It's just too thin a wall thickness to be able to 3D print. And you know, to my point that I was asking about this morning, Carl, about wall thicknesses.
Yeah, definitely on the photon, you want a minimum of at least 0.3 to 0.4 mil.
Oh yeah, definitely. Even 0.5 didn't work for me. So the long and the short of it is, I took this CAD, thickened everything up to 0.5 mil, and tried to print it out. I was getting print failures all the time, even on that thickness. It just wasn't thick enough.
When you were printing it, did you print the hopper body as a complete hopper?
I did several different things. I'll show you the CAD artwork I used.
Did you drill a hole in the bottom to stop the suction?
Just a minute.
By the sound of that, no.
That wasn't what was causing the print. It wasn't the suction that was causing the print failures. There were entire walls dropping out.
Yeah.
I've got some. So there's my 3D drawings, 13D. So I then forked my CAD, right, and I started to work on. What did I written here? So yeah, 0.5 mil wall thickness for a 3D print. So I redid the Blender artwork. So that was the body, right?
Yeah.
As it stood to be 3D printed, and the direction that I printed it was to tip it up on its end, and so it's being printed sort of more or less vertically upright like that.
Yeah.
But I take your point. I mean, you can't just print it like that with a print bed at the bottom, because you'll get horrendous suction effects, and you'll get, you know, the resin will be trapped. So it was tried to print it with a load of support, sort of vertical upright. Anyway, that just wasn't working really, and that's on 0.5 mil wall thickness there.
Yeah.
So those were all thickened up to 0.5 mil. So then I thought, okay, well, sod it, I'll have a play. You know, we've locked down. I'll have a play with a cameo cutter and see what I can do with that, because actually it's not too difficult, right? So I redrew the artwork again. The 0.75 mil wall thickness. So this is right. So this is very much part. The way that this CAD package is working is very much part based. So I've got every single piece, and every single piece is named, and I can switch on and off those pieces, group them together, and then export them. And they're vaguely grouped into pipe work. Oh, what have we got here? Solvar, brakes, hopper body. So that's that. So there's group, you know, and within that, then there's all the different parts of the body. What have we got here? Brakes there, walkways, suspension units. So they're the main bits, right? So let's just take the body, for example, or the pipe work that goes on there, and the brake distributors is another bit. So that then is now the wall thickness now is 0.75 mil. So that, again, I use a very similar technique to what I was doing for etching, to be honest. I took that and I took it over into the 2D CAD package. I started drawing it up. So where's my 2D drawings, styrene artwork? Probably like, what's the latest one? Okay, yeah. So then I designed it for different thicknesses of styrene. So I designed it for 10 thou and 30 thou. So the majority of the structural bits are 30 thou, and the detailing bits are then 10 thou. Let's have a quick look at that artwork. So this is the artwork now for the cameo cutter. I'll just try and make it a bit close all of that. There we go. I'm a little rusty on some of these packages. I haven't used them for a few weeks, and it kind of. So it's just line artwork, right? And when, I mean, as John will tell you, as I'm sure you've seen with him doing his cameo artwork. It helps if you have, because you're going to snap this out, you kind of want to design it so that there's as few lines to snap as possible, and ideally as little waste as possible. So that's what I arrived at for the 30 thou bits, and then the artwork for the 10 thou bits looked like this. So actually there were some structural bits that I did in 10 thou. Close. So what you can see there is actually that's the bit at the bottom. That is the main. That's the soul bar. That's the headstock, and then that's the other bit of it. So if you, that is basically. So it's one flat panel there, and then the end, and then the bottom. If you can kind of see that shape there, and then how that is essentially that shape there, slightly different, but. So I cut all of that out, and
you've made your life difficult with those inside cuts, those inside snaps.
Say again, John.
You made your life difficult with those inside snaps, the parts within parts.
Well, that's okay because that's 10 thou, so that got cut all the way through.
All right.
By the cutter. So I only did that on the 10 thou bits, but then putting it all together. I don't know if you can see. If you pin my screen, and I'll hold it in front of the camera. I think it's the best way of doing it. But so this is then the first sort of prototype of putting all of those bits together of the styrene shell. So I was pretty happy with that, with the intention then of trying to etch the end ladders, which I haven't done yet, and 3D print some of the other bits. So the brake distributors, the buffers, and the suspension units are 3D printed. And I think that is what the Cameo is pretty good for that, for parts. So I've got a bit of a production line going then. So this is like these are primed, but that's I'll try and get a bit better light on it. That is 4 of the pedestal suspension units as they come off the printer, still with the support behind it. I've done it that way, so I mean, essentially they're just cosmetic. They're going in front of the pedestal suspension unit. So when you snap that off, you can just file the back to remove any of the pips, and then it's stuck against a bit of brass anyway. Then I did buffers, oleos. So that's the oleos done on the photon. And as you can see, things seem to print best when you orientate them in a couple of different axes from the vertical. And
because you presumably use those for white metal casting masters really easily.
Could do. I just use them as they come. They're already pre-drilled, so I get what I do is they just need opening out a wee bit because there's a bit of roughness. So I take a 1.5mm drill bit, just open them out a wee bit, and then they're ready for. I've got one here. They're ready to take a sprung head. So the sprung head just goes straight in. Here's one I did earlier. Where are you? What do I do with it? Oh, there were 2 of them here. Oh yeah. So once that's opened out a little bit, that will then take the Wizard Models buffer like that, and then they just go straight on, and you've got sprung buffers. And then I did the Westinghouse brake distributor. And talking about how the supports attach, that was kind of interesting with this one. Because, again, I didn't really want to have to clean them up. So what I did, and I'll show you the CAD for this in a minute, is I attached the supports at places where there'd naturally be a bolt. So when you snap them all off, you just got all the bolt detail, which seemed like a smart thing to do. I'll show the CAD for that. Hang on a minute. So that would be the on prints. Oh, I'll have to open the Anycubic software. So let's take the long O. No, which one was it? The brake distributors version. Probably that one. Yeah.
For those not in the know, this Chitu box is a piece of software that you have to use for 3D printers to be able to slice your image or your CAD work into layers so the printer can lay each layer down.
Sorry, what was I doing? The brake distributors. That one, right. Oh, this must have been my test piece. Let me remove that from the. So you can see the way that I did the supports there. If I move it onto the support mode. Too many different CAD packages with too many different ways of controlling it. But what I tried to do was to you can see at the base of the brake distributor there is a bolt basically all the way around. There's a bolt head. So I've attached it wherever there are bolt heads, and that seemed to work reasonably well when it was printed.
Which presentation came out the best then, Guy?
Out of those,
yeah,
the upright ones were fine. I've got the test piece somewhere here. I decided to use one of the upright ones.
Right.
Because the detail was better on the top, to be honest. The rivet detail and stuff on the top of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was more or less done as a test to test different support structures. And because it didn't need cleaning up, this one, and this one did, I thought, oh, well, go with that.
Yeah. Because
yeah.
you see, Colin and myself have come to the conclusion
that
the photon is better at printing out small round items than Shapeways is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think there's less stepping, I think.
Yeah, less stepping. Well, you know, it depends what setting you've got it on, but there's less stepping on the on the photon than there is on Shapeways.
I think that's because the precision is not as good. And because of that, each layer is the registration of each layer is slightly off. And it kind of has an anti-aliasing effect when you've got 1,000 layers.
Yeah. I
think that's why. I do find things like, and I've compared a lot of prints now that I've done through Shapeways, things like embossed writing. So some of the sleepers I was doing for Tom Harwin in 7mm have, I don't know if it's tarmac or something written across the middle of them.
Yeah.
And that just, I've got another test piece. In fact, I can show you that. Let's stop the, so this is the test piece for Tom. And those are just primed, but you can see that if I get it at the right angle, you can see the tarmac writing.
Yeah.
It's a lot, Shapeways is the bottom one. Just a minute, let's see if I can get better light on that. Let's light it from the side. So there you go, that's a bit better, isn't it? So the bottom one is there's different resins being used there. Top one is a red resin, and then 2 green resins in the middle with various different print orientations and stuff. And the bottom one is the Shapeways print in ultra detail, which is better. And because for that particular project, I was trying to work through dimensional accuracy. And that's when I was finding I was getting quite bad problems with parts fitting together. So when you're designing with, so these had the Pandrol clips were designed to plug into those rebates.
Yeah.
And I was finding that, you know, they're quite big differences. those rebates were with certain resins on certain settings were as much as 0.3 mil too small in each direction, making it 0.6 mil.
Yeah.
Right.
Been there. We've been there.
Across the width of it. So that's how bad it can. That's how bad it can get if you're trying to design for parts that need to sort of fit together.
But the conclusion we've also come to is shapeways are better for flat objects like that.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right. And the dimensional accuracy of the shapeways parts is pretty much spot on. I think there's about 0.1 mil I had to reduce the part that fitted into that gap in shapeways, but on the photon it was, like I said, 0.6 mil difference.
Yeah.
So different resins do have different effects. So going to the red resin really helped, and I think you had success with the black resin, right?
Yeah. They were out of stock of the black resin, and I got Colin some red resin of the stuff that we're going to use for casting.
Yeah.
His exposure times are, well, less than the black stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll see how we get on.
I really want to, I guess I've got a different approach to what you're adopting, in so much as I want to use the parts that are straight off the photon here rather than as masters.
Yeah.
So with that, given that approach, I'm trying to cater for that, I guess. But I'm pretty happy. These are Bill Bedford units, sprung units in there. There's P4 wheel set in that at the moment.
Yeah.
And they're fine, right? As cosmetic side frames, I'm pretty happy with those.
Yeah.
And I'll work through it, right? I haven't got there yet with this one, but I think I'm gonna etch the walkways because they'll look better.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Than a print. The buffers can go on now because I've got those bits ready. So I'm just working through all the different parts. I've got the buffers, the distributor, the tank. I need to put those on. I'm still messing with getting the tank to print correctly, but that's covered in fluff, that one. There's a cat hair probably. That's one of the tanks, but I'm finding that those legs are way too thin and fragile. You can see they're just wobbly.
What's the thickness on them?
Thicken those up. They're really thin, Carl. I think they're like 0.2 or something.
Yeah.
So not quite sure what I'll do with those. I think I might just put a brace underneath it that you won't be able to see because it will kind of be that way up. A cross brace. Yeah. So I'll put them together with wire, and so it's pretty much ready for the distributor to go on and stuff. I did that as a test piece to see how quick it would be to put it together with styrene, and it's really nice working with styrene. It's really quick to put it together. That was about an hour, and I can manage that. I can live with that. That's quite a bit quicker than having to solder it together, I think, as an etch kit. I've got the end platforms are done as well. That's a bit done in 10 thou, I think, with a couple of 30 thou bits stuck to it. As it comes off the cutter, got those little rebates there, and in they go. Bang. I'm hold it up to the camera. So I haven't quite got it in place, but I mean, that's what's fit on. Pop the buffers on. I'll just need to get to the end of it, and then varying the parts, it should be very easy, right? Because as we went back through those photographs to do the different styles of end platform or ladder or upper body profile, it should be very easy to do all 4 of the different PJs that way.
Yeah. Is the sole bar the same on all 4?
Yes, it's that style.
Yeah.
That's done with 10 thou. That's the most fragile, and I think it's okay actually. Once you form it into a box,
yeah,
10 thou is all right, and it hasn't warped. It's it's straight. I'm trying to put it end on to prove that.
Yeah. Well, you've got springy suspension, so if there is any, well, providing there's not too much warping, that should compensate.
For the ribs inside, I use that triangular profile. That triangular. We were talking about Mark III roofs on the DMU forum recently.
Yeah.
For the triangular profile section, I bought a load of different profiles of Plastrax, and I was going through them. But there's a different sizes of triangular section, and it's about 0.75, 0.8 mil. I think 0.763 or something. Is it sold as imperial size?
Well, it's American, isn't it?
30 thou it says here. That's which they call 0.8, but actually it's 0.76. So that's quite fine stuff, that triangular profile. But that, easy just for commodity stuff like that. I'm not gonna bother with trying to cut those parts on the silhouette. I'll just use commodity strip of the right thickness to do that. And anyway, that's it. So the other wagon that I've done in the same way, that's a bit more finished, is and Carl, you'll recognise from this morning the ends. Very similar. I think they must have come out the same factory as those. Are you on mute?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yes, Procore. Built Procore, Horbury.
Yeah. So that's got Phil's bogies on there. Collins bogies, the Schlerens.
Yeah.
And they also went with axle motions as well. So there's one with axle motions on it. Slightly different. And then I just, what I did on the silhouette cutter was just cut pilot holes. Just got it to just half etch the little pilot hole, drilled those through, and then put wire handrails in there.
Since when did? Oh, they're not. Oh, right. What wagon make is that? What wagon type is that? That's not the same one, is it, Guy?
The same as what? Sorry.
The one you've just shown us.
There's a PXA, they both are. One is got Schleren bogie. There was 3 different build codes of those. There was only 16 wagons made. Some of them were inners, some were outers, and some had axle motions and some had Schlerens.
Yeah, I don't know if the axle motions started that way or whether they were simply swapped over later.
No, I spent quite a bit of time. I wondered that, John, and I spent quite a bit of time looking at photos of them. And it actually 8 of them or something have got axle motions, and the other, or maybe it's 12 of them have got axle motions. And
the axle motions would have come off the old BSC wagons.
I would have thought so. Yeah,
you would have thought so, wouldn't you? There must have been off scrap ones or something. But the majority.
They had to. I mean, BSC, British Steel made the axle motions anyway for their own wagons. I know. I was project manager.
From memory, I'll go back to the Metro models book. I think the Metro wagons book. I think it was only 4 wagons that had the axle motions, and I think the other 8 then had, or 8 or 12 had Schlerens. Let me have a quick look. But they're in there. They're in the usual in this usual book, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, because I'm here in Greece, I have none of my documentation with me at all.
Unfortunate.
Can't use that as an excuse, Mike.
Well, if you need anything looking up, do let us know. Yeah, here they are. There's a page here on page 70. So 27 000 to 0009 were axle motion. So that's 10 vehicles, and then 5 inner vehicles were made with it says axle motion again there, but they're not. I'm sure they're not. And then the outers, it says they've got Schlerens, but let me.
Yeah. The Metro.
I thought they all had. I thought they all had Schleren on. Oh.
Just going to try and find my. What was
Yeah.
the PXA, right?
Yeah, but don't treat the Metro books as gospel.
No, that you've got to look at photos.
In collaboration, because the Metro book does have its
Yeah.
faults.
The
I think I've not.
PTA,
I think I've got that on a different laptop actually. The research for that one. But I've got a load of photos of them. Yeah, usual. So that's a nice easy kit, right? Because on the Silhouette, nice straight parts, and I just used for the rails and the ribs, probably something like 40 thou square profile styrene. Very easy to get that to go together, and then I probably that's a 10 thou. That's a 10 thou laminate with those holes cut in it, laminated onto a bit of probably 30 or 40 thou underneath that. And the same for the holes on the headstock has those holes for the buffers, but they never buffers fitted.
that's
So
right.
did the same thing with that. Got the Silhouette cutter to cut the holes, and then it's a laminate that sticks on top to give you make it look like that.
Just check the wall thickness that the PJs are printed for Mike Cobley, and
Yeah.
1 mil thickness.
Okay, let me have a look at the wall thickness of. I know what let's probably use 30 thou styrene as my default because it's 20 thou seems too thin. So
Well,
40 thou is a bit.
The 1 mil thickness I've used is obviously way over scale, but
Yeah.
it gives you a nice firm body.
Yeah.
Are you talking about wagon body sides now?
Yes.
Normally manufactured from 3.8 millimeter Corten steel.
So that would be very, very thin in.
So that's the PJ that I printed for Mike.
Yeah.
So that's got 1 mil wall thickness.
The rail is 2. What's the width of the rail? Okay, it's 1.5 mil wide, the rail, and then if I put that over with that, I think it might be 40 thou. I might have done those 40 thou.
That was a Northfield PGA though, wasn't it, rather than one of the more well-known ones?
Yeah, that was a gypsum one.
Yeah, mine's a gypsum one. So yeah.
The other wagon then on the list to do, and these are scratch built, but I think that the Cameo cutter will do them as well, right? Is just to do these. Again, very, very straightforward, I think, with the Cameo cutter. And again, the 3D printed, these are from Shapeways, 3D printed bogies. But the majority of that, I think, can be done with a Cameo cutter. Put them together. I find these have got inside scoring. So I'm not quite sure what, I guess with a Cameo, John, have you done anything like that with a Cameo cutter? You're on mute.
Yeah. Yes, I have. So I would tend to score it. So let the Cameo score it, and then use sort of chisel bladed scriber.
Yes. Yeah.
Just open up a V slightly,
Yeah.
so that as you fold it, the V closes.
Yeah.
And you'll get a crisper line.
So I did that on here on the PGA. I did that.
Yeah.
I think that's a laminate. It's a 10 thou laminate over 30 thou.
Yeah.
On the side, there's a bit of a dent there.
For my P, whatever they are, A's, I use 20 thou on the outside, but have scored it as I've described.
And did you laminate that or
No,
straight on? Yeah. You've got with those you have on the Tulist Russell, you've got quite good internal bracing. It's got a lid on it as well, hasn't it? So it doesn't matter what it looks like inside.
All manner of sin.
Yeah. I kind of wanted the interior on these. I wanted the interior on the PGA, the interior to look okay.
Yeah, I understand.
It hasn't got doors on at the moment, so you can see all the way through it. I did think about working doors, you know. So.
Go on, Guy. I dare you to do that.
I've drawn one up. That's an etch door for these. So those are.
Are you going to have working air cylinders? Are you?
I did kind of wonder if I could bury a servo somewhere inside the body, and then have the servo operate those. But that's just madness, I think. There's no point.
Yeah. I
It's
agree.
reassuring to hear that my level of madness exists elsewhere.
What about memory wire? Guy? How
Could
about
do.
incorporated by memory wire?
I tried to find some the smallest servos I could find were like really small linear servos, which could be quite good. I guess it'd be DCC actuated.
Any idea what Bachmann used on their Class 90 for the pantograph?
I think they use one of those small linear servos. They look a bit different. They're quite a bit different profile to the sort of servos that you use for point motors.
Yeah, the
really-
Bachmann 90 does have a really small servo in it. It's just mounted by 4 little tiny screws and that. But yeah, that would fit in flat.
Hello, Mark.
That's been quite. That's good. That was quite collaborative, that session. Which is kind of how I wanted it, like a bit more Q&A. But if you've got any more questions, I think we probably covered most of what I wanted to cover.
I have a question that's not related specifically to wagons, but is related to the use of something like a silhouette or a
Yeah.
Have you or anyone else tried doing stuff with transparent or clear plastic, so you're scoring stuff that you can then
Okay.
put into how can I explain
One moment.
this?
I've done the doors for on a first generation. Let me share my screen. I don't know if this is close to what you want. On a 155, there's a recent project. Let me find a good photo of it. Oh, that's the one. Spot on. So on these early sprinters, and the 150s had them as well, is this sort of perspex door. So I did those on recently on the. Well, I got some Hurst. George kindly sent me some Hurst ones, which were okay, but I decided to do them on the. I don't know if I've got a spare one here. Decided to do them on the Cameo, and they came out much better actually on the Cameo. Don't know if this is.
I've obviously missed quite a lot of this. Sorry, Guy. I've only come in about 10 minutes ago. Yeah, oh blimey, that's nice.
Okay.
What's a Cameo? What's a Cameo printer?
It's a cutter.
It's a cutter.
Cutter, Cameo cutter. What's a Cameo cutter?
It looks like this.
Right.
And it's rather than it's using printer technology, right, to move its thing. It's got a cartridge. It's got a cutting head in it. It moves left and right. This is an A3 one, so it's a bit bigger.
Right.
And you just feed sheets of styrene in, and it will cut out the. It's not good enough to cut all the way. It's not powerful enough to cut all the way through. So it just scores the styrene.
So Mike, it has a little blade like that. So for scale, hang on, where are we? That's my little finger by comparison. Tiny little blade, and it effectively drags that little blade round the sheets. So rather than cut it out manually, you can score it and then snap it out of the sheets.
Yeah.
But they're only a few £100s. They're intended for sort of making snowflake-shaped Christmas cards and things. They're very much a craft tool, so they come with a CAD package that's quite easy to master.
This is 10 thou. I think it's the stuff that Plasticards sell. Plasti glaze, I think they call it. It's 10 thou thick, and it cut pretty well. So I reckon you could use that to do something similar to laser glaze as well. If you can't find the stuff you need from Brian, or if you need to do something one-off, then you could cut weird glazing shapes out.
I've done some tests, like flush glaze panels on my portrait, and yes, it does work. Mine will cut through 10 thou right through 10 thou. It will score 20 thou. But yes, you just draw the window up in the CAD package and essentially print it, and it will cut the panel out. Yeah.
I've got. If anyone wants these, I've got stacks. If anyone wants to do a 150 or a 155 or a 156, I think I'll go on Charlie's. Rough them up both sides with a bit of fine, wet, and dry.
Yes, please, Guy.
Off you go. Or maybe the easy thing is just to. I'll put some in the post. Let me know. Contact me. Price of a stamp. I've got a load of them.
Yeah, I'd love some of those. 318s need them as well, you see.
Yeah.
But actually, what I was having a poor attempt to explain is, if you, I had the thought that where you got stuff, you've got a certain kind of grill that is difficult to produce because it's going to be too damn fine in pretty much any medium without support. If you were to use something like a silhouette to score the grill pattern into clear plastic, and then you put like paint or something like that into the score lines, it then gives you a fine grill in a material that gives it support. I just wondered if anyone had tried that, and you know, what their results had been if they had.
I've done the side grills on CCTs and Govs on my silhouette.
Okay.
So you know they're quite, and this is in HO, so they're quite small. They're about 3 mil, 4 mil high, and I've got, I think they're 3 mil high, and I've got 6 score lines within that 3 mil. So that it will cut fairly fine.
Yeah.
And it looks, you know, it does represent that sort of punchy metal grill that CCTs and Govs had.
As opposed to paint, you could use something like that, which is the panel line accent colour, which is very, very thin, and will, by capillary action, will draw along. Paint, I think, is too thick, so that would pick up into a very thin cut line.
Okay.
Us Luddites still use one of these things.
I think the absolute best way of doing it, though, would be to etch it, right?
The problem is, though, it's with the I'll bring Paul in on this because he'll know best what I'm talking about. But I'm thinking of a thing where it's, rather than it being necessarily a standard grill, it's a grid. So Paul, I'm talking like the floor in the centre of the DTS, where it's a waffle thing. So you've got like a reasonable depth in the thing.
Yeah.
So if you do it in etch, first off, you're not going to be able to go fine enough because it's basically vertical pieces of metal arranged in a grid pattern. And it's the fact that there's this thing that you can somewhat see through.
You can get what the other thing you might try is you get 5 thou styrene, and you could it will cut all the way through that, and probably will cut most of the way through 10 thou styrene as well, and then laminate. So if you've got, I think the thinner it is, the cleaner it will be. Or even in paper, you could do it in paper and laminate paper together. I mean that's kind of like that, right? The holes in the end of that are a bit like that. You're just talking about a more complicated pattern than that, right?
Let me just see if I can find
a picture and share it.
Yeah. Paul, if I've got your picture on my laptop, are you okay with me sharing that?
Yeah, of course. No problem, Chris.
You can see that as the cutters cut through that, though, there's a little bit of, it's raised up the edge a bit. Whenever you cut and apply pressure, because
you get a burr.
Styrene will flow up a bit, won't it? As you cut and form the hole.
Yeah, you get that any cutting. It's the burr, isn't it? You've got to remove the burr.
Yeah.
Unless, of course,
I'm not sure it's burr so much as distortion of the styrene around the cut, but it's not like the swath that you get from.
No, it's like a pressure wave, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, you going to share your screen, Chris?
Once I find the picture.
Right. thought I put a few wagons out on the layout, so I'll finish up with a. Tim, you were asking me yesterday about Watley.
If I share briefly, so this is you can see a 50p piece in the background scale.
Yeah.
You can go really very, very fine. This is stainless steel. You can go very fine with etch these days. So you could. That's quite easily drawn. That was I just drew the grids at whatever it is, 1 mil. I think they're 1 mil squares. So etch has come a long way.
Yeah, it looks good.
The Gabion baskets that I've used on Watley that Brian did for me. I've got one here. That's a very thin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you use the nickel silver, it's because it's a stronger metal. You can get a lot thinner, can't you? So
They're nice and strong, and they've got
and it's hard as well. Yeah, but I think brass brass can get munched if you try to go really thin with it because of the etching. Whereas nickel silver, being a harder metal in the first place, takes longer to etch through, I believe.
Yeah, I would prefer stainless in something like that because I can't remember. I think that's 5,000. It might be 10,000. Probably 5,000.
Have you had any failures on that, John, or not?
No, none at all. I mean, you need to tell PPD you're going fine.
Yeah.
And they need to take a bit more care than they occasionally do. But
you're saying
the other issue is though when you only need a bit that's basically like half an inch wide and an inch long.
Yeah, you need to find another dozen people who want exactly the same thing.
And for some reason, the Photos app is not working. Why is
well, for Mike's benefit and going back to portrait cutters or silhouette cutters, so this is a sheet, it's not very clear, I'm afraid, sheet of 40 thou plastic card that I've put through my silhouette cutter and effectively scored the inners onto it. And then a bit below, I've got a walkthrough of the steps. Hang on, Paul. So you just snap out these center sections and make them into a sub-assembly. So that guy is what I was describing using my scrawker effectively.
Yeah.
I had a proper scribing tool at one stage, but I can't find it now.
Yeah.
I've got something like that.
Microbox do one. So you can see you can make up batch build wagons quite quickly. That's got slightly what you might describe as a checker plate for surface. It's a bit difficult to see in this photo, I'm sorry, but I've just basically had the machine scribe 1mm diamonds. It sits there and chugs through it quite a long time, but works quite well as checker plates.
Found a picture of what Chris was describing.
And then that's the other version. Yeah, that's a Tallis Russell PAA. It's quite suitable for that sort of thing. And of course, I've got the advantage that my hoppers have got, and therefore I can hide a load of extra bracing in it, unlike guys.
Oh, I've finally got the thing to come up on mine if Carl hasn't.
Yeah, if you could share.
There you go, Chris.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh yeah, great, yes.
Yeah, that's similar to the walkways on the PGAs. That material, that same kind of profile.
You might find there's a 4D model shop in London do some bog standard etches. If you wanted that in something like 4mm, they can probably do that off the shelf as just sheets of 3rd A4 or something.
Okay, I did look at them. I probably just need to look again.
I couldn't find stuff suitable for the PGA walkways when I looked in 4D. I ended up getting something. The closest thing I found was a bit of. They do some fencing profile, which was pretty close, so I ended up using that.
That's one of my CCT sides HO scale. So that those are the small grills along the body side.
Yeah.
So those were done on a silhouette. That is 20 thou plastic card. So it scored those quite happily. Scored the windows, and I just popped the windows out.
Yeah, because I actually thought about something like that for the radiator grill on the side of the GTS, and I tried to ask the question on RM Web, and apparently, basically, Andy York was like, "What the was basically a polite version of what the fuck you think you're doing, you idiot."
Yeah, strange.
Couldn't you get in the old days? Scalelink used to be very fine mesh etchers, didn't they?
Yeah.
Are they still available?
Is it?
Scalelink are still trading. They're another one of these companies that hasn't really reached the internet age.
Oh, don't they? Can't you get that from? Well, they're still at Blandford Forum or somewhere like that. Scalelink.
Yeah, that grill.
Yes, that's right, Carl.
Are you showing us the one on the radiator?
He was, yes.
Got that again, Carl.
The silver, yeah.
Yeah, the silver one.
I think might be tempted to try 3D printing that, to be honest, and getting that surface detail from a 3D print.
I'm not sure you would get.
You wouldn't get.
You'd get like dots maybe, but I don't think you'd get the holy pattern.
I think you would.
I've done sort of looked into various aspects with that, and I it's like the best you could probably do is if you manage to get the stepping on the layers to recreate that.
Yeah.
Use a craft knife and a ruler, you'll do it. Just be careful and consistent.
Yeah, you can get the effect of that with a scalpel and a ruler. You can't, because I can't even.
Are you right on the time, Paul?
Yeah, just a few minutes more. Let's answer the questions we can.
Yeah.
It's only Clive's train set after all.
Oh.
No, it's a very fine multi-traction masterpiece, obviously.
Oh, that's the most polite you've been all day to me.
He's just jealous.
Where's the usual? What the fucking hell are you doing here, mate?
I haven't had a drink yet. I haven't had an alcoholic drink. Give me half an hour.
Come on, I said last weekend to you, I need my normal greeting of turning up at
I think he's demonstrating the exception so he can prove the rule.
I should go down and get a bottle of something where you carry on.
Yeah, I think it's something like 27 slats in 9mm.
9mm.
So basically 0.3.
Divided by 27. Yeah.
What's the thickness? 27 slats in 9mm, did you say?
Yeah.
0.3 of a mil, yeah. I mean,
yeah, three slats every mil. Yeah.
You'll get that. The 3D print will be all right with that.
I know one thing: etch didn't work.
Keep trying. I mean, the on the oleos here, those little dots representing the bolt heads are probably like 0.2, 0.3. So if you can do a little dot like that, you should be able to do a flat panel with ribs, which is what you're describing, isn't it?
Are they 3D printed, Guy?
Yeah.
Oh. What, Shapeways or yourself?
No, off the Photon. That's just a commodity part now. Don't bother. And they're ready to fit. They've got holes already in them, and they're designed to fit the They're designed to fit the Wizard models' heads. They're sprung.
Yeah, I might be able to try that myself in a couple of months. Well, 3 or 4 months, because I'm doing a thing that's giving me like an Elgu Mars worth of Amazon vouchers. So it's like, okay, what can I buy from Amazon for that amount of money? Probably nothing that I want. Sorry, nothing that I would otherwise buy, say, a resin printer.
Yeah, and I've just had a quick look on 4D Model Shop. This is the smallest mesh they do, 0.75 holes. So
yeah, not bad.
Not too bad. I mean, there must be a use for that. It's just not quite fine enough for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I use some of their etchings for the upgrade of Tunbridge West Yard footbridge. It's a larger mesh, but I did get some of that smaller stuff as well, just to check.
There you go, Phil. There's a line for you. Standard, quarter of a mil, half a mil, 3/4 of a mil.
Yeah,
regular
space.
I
reckon that I think you said, Chris said 27, but but I reckon if you were prepared to do 24, 25, you might be able to etch that in point. I mean, they're not Brian's. He gets them in at. There's a guy who goes in at PPD before everybody else and does the awkward stuff, and that's Brian's, and gets it through. But if you're prepared to do, say, 25 in 9mm, you might be able to get away with that. And that is an etch in brass.
The detail is so small in bits. So it's very hard to hold up on the camera. I don't know if the camera will register that. The top of the brake distributor's got some pretty fine detail on it. I can't really see it, can you? Especially because it's not primed. Maybe one that's a stack of brake distributors.
Yeah, look good.
Printer is good. It will get down to 0.1 registration, but in Engage, I don't really care about that because nobody's going to see it. So I've missed half the detail, if I'm honest.
It's good when you're running out of bits. You set the printer off. 2 hours later, you've got a tray of more brake distributors to go in the spares box. Ready to.
And looking at the size of those, they'll cost you 30-40p for that whole sheet you're holding up.
20 of them. Yeah,
that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it probably cost you more in IPA and
gloves,
waste resin.
IPA gloves,
paper towels, and rubber gloves.
Only the number I picked off the top of my memory was incorrect. It's 40, which is an issue.
That's bloody fine. That is
40 in 9mm.
Yeah.
We have to compromise.
Quarter 0.2. Yeah.
And then that you're going 0.2, but you've got to double that guy because you've got to leave the gap in between each one.
Yeah.
So you're actually looking at about 80 rather than 40 to give you the effect you are.
And by the time you compensate for that light bleed effect that we talked about earlier.
And pooling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I suppose that the main message is kind of like horses for courses. Choose the right material and technique for the part that you're trying to make, and in order to give you a reasonable quick construction time.
Yeah, plus test it out like you've been doing, Guy.
So I test it out, yeah.
You can see what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
You can choose the correct method.
Kev, sit down.
Anyway, gents, if we move on to the next presentation, there's obviously more time this evening to go back to any subject we want to discuss. Carry on. What's this, Mike?
What's next on the agenda, Paul?
Clive Mortimer's Sheffield Exchange.
I've just been checking. I can't see Kev's crutch shot on the list.
I was trying to forget I saw that, Gary.